European analysts have assessed the Trump-Putin summit in Alaska as a mixed outcome, with no agreement reached, but some strategic signals noted. Political analyst Alina Frolova added that the summit fits Putin's strategy to postpone decisions while continuing military actions. Let's listen in. Now we'll move on. European analyst Jacob Funk Kierkegaard of Bruegel said the Trump-Putin summit avoided worse outcomes for Europe, noting that discussions focused on an immediate ceasefire without land swaps. Political scientist Clemens Fischer from the University of Cologne said the Trump-Putin summit in Alaska played out more as a high-stakes drama than a negotiation centered on Ukraine. Now for this discussion, we are joined by Madhav Nalapat. He's the editorial director at TSG. Thank you, Madhav Nalapat, for joining us today. Good to see you. Now that the summit has happened, what's your take? What's your analysis now?
Look, I think we are finally seeing peace, the light of peace at the end of a very, very long and dark tunnel. So I'm quite hopeful that now we'll at least have a timetable, not in years, but in weeks, about when this war will end, once President Putin is done with whatever limited gains he wants. So from that point of view, I would say, as a citizen of the global South, I welcome this, as the Indian government has welcomed this, because we in the global South have suffered terribly. We have been ignored. We have been treated as just collateral damage in this war that is being conducted against Russia by elements of NATO, through Ukraine. From the beginning itself, it has been a hopeless war, and we are very, very happy that finally the end is in sight. And no, President Putin doesn't want to take over the whole of Ukraine. He simply wants those Russian territories back that was ceded to Ukraine when Ukraine and Russia were part of the same Soviet Union.
And Madhav Nalapat, what is your take on President Trump's bold moves about pursuing Nobel Prize, and also do you think that these peace efforts are genuine or part of his show?
Well, look, he's making a lot of efforts for peace. There's no doubt about it. And if there can be an end to the Ukraine war, well, I think that will bring the Nobel Prize much closer to him. The fact of the matter is he's finally got President Putin, I think, to agree to some sort of a timetable. And I think he's got an understanding of what Putin has in mind. And from that point of view, I think I'm very optimistic that finally we are going to see the end of this war, possibly in weeks. I've not been optimistic so far, but I'm finally becoming a little optimistic that we are going to see the end of this horrible war that has cost so many Ukrainian lives, cost so many Russian lives, and caused so much of damage as collateral to the economies of the world and the suffering people of the world, especially in the global South.
And now going back to our previous news, so what impact could NATO-style security guarantees for Ukraine have on the broader geopolitical landscape now?
Look, that's a no-go for Russia. There's no question about that. Unless NATO wants to enter into a direct conflict with Russia, I'm not sure anybody in NATO would want that. I mean, giving kind of a NATO style security guarantees means that that the Ukrainians can interpret any move by Russia as an attack and call for the rest of NATO to come to assistance. It will immediately become a NATO-Russian war. That will be disastrous for Europe and for the whole world. So I doubt very much that is ever going to happen.
So do you think these guarantees by EU leaders, do you think this is escalating tensions with Russia further or de-escalating?
Look, the EU has been in favor of escalating the war, and now it's the EU taxpayers' money that's funding the war, and Americans are sitting pretty. They're selling weapons, at the cost of the EU taxpayers. And I don't think it'll be long before EU taxpayers say, what are you spending our money for? The fact is that Ukraine is losing territory every week, and hardly any gains have been secured by it. Whatever little gain has been secured has already been taken back by the Russians. So how long is the Ukrainian, war going to drain the purse of the of taxpayers in the EU? How long will those who want the war uh, be allowed by their taxpayers to continue this kind of a fruitless war?
Thank you very much, Madhav Nalapat, for joining us and sharing your insight throughout our news. Now we move on